Hey everybody, welcome to the video. It's Tuesday, June 1st. We're breaking down this monster 14-game slate that we have over on DraftKings today. Pretty much every single team is going besides two, so it is an action-packed slate. We have Coors Field back on tap. We have lots of good pitchers to talk about, some decent SP2, so it should be a pretty good slate. I'm looking forward to it. I'm sure you guys are as well. And if you do find this video helpful in any way possible, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are brand new. And if you want to help support the channel over on Patreon, it is the best time to do so considering it is the first of the month. So if you like these sheets and you want access to it each and every single day with the entire player pool plus projections, optimizer ownership projections, rankings, cheat sheets, the entire data sheet that I do update throughout the day in the Discord community, link is down below for that. If you don't follow me over on social media, you know where to find me in the bottom right corner of your screen. But I think that's it for the plug. So without further ado, let's dive into today's video. Start up top here with Tyler Glass now at only $9,800, a little bit cheaper than he usually is. And I know he's facing the Yankees, and I know people don't really like to use pitchers against the Yankees, but there's plenty of strikeouts to be had in this lineup, and we know exactly how good Tyler Glass now has been this year, one of the best pitchers in baseball. I realize it's a big park downgrade going from the Trop to the Yankee Stadium, but even then the numbers have just been so good this year, I'm not really caring too much. Over a 36% K rate, over 12 Ks per 9. 273 xFIP, 283 Sierra. We know we can throw around 100 miles per hour in his fastball, and the guy just has some overall really strong numbers this season. And I know the matchup versus the Yankees won't exactly look like the greatest thing in the world. 25% K rate, they walk a lot, they got power, high WOBAs, high WRC pluses. You guys get the idea, but I still think Tyler Glass now could host double-digit strikeouts here. I mean, I know there's a lot of power, but with a lot of power does come some strikeouts, especially with guys like Giancarlo Stanton, who's recently back in the lineup, and we know he's got plenty of power, but I mean, most of the time the guy will strike out. So I still like Tyler Glass now here. I know he's, tougher matchup versus the Yankees and a park downgrade, but I still think we can play him with confidence. Chris Bassett, $9,100. He's getting a bit pricey, but he's coming off a shutout performance versus the Angels where he absolutely crushed them. And obviously we can't expect that each and every single time, but he gets a nice soft matchup here versus Seattle. And Bassett's been good this year, only 3.3 implied team total against him, decently heavy favorite, 6.5 K prop as well. And 3.21 CRA, 3.58 xFIP, 3.4 Sierra, over a 26% K rate. Doesn't really walk too many guys, doesn't give up much power whatsoever. Only a 25% hard contact rate, and Seattle's a team that we typically like to pick on with pitchers, and so far this season they are striking out a near 26% clip to righties. A little bit of pop there, but only a 283 on base percentage, 285 WOBA, and 85 WRC plus doesn't overly concern me. So I think Chris Bassett, even though the price is getting a little bit up there, I think he's viable. Although for $700 more, I like the upside with Tyler Glass now a lot more. But I think Bassett is a fine SP2 today. Or if you want to make him your SP1, I guess I wouldn't have too many issues with that. And then dropping down to Robbie right here, $8,500. I imagine he's going to be one of the highest owned pitchers on the entire slate because the guy's actually been pretty darn good this year. And he's also getting a park upgrade because Toronto is now playing in Buffalo. They were playing in Florida, and that stadium was a hitter's paradise, and it was basically Coors Field for the most part. They are now playing in Buffalo, which should be at least a little bit easier here for the pitchers, so I think that's a nice upgrade for Robbie Ray here. And 3.8 implied team total against him, pretty heavy favorite, 7.5 K prop as well. And like I was saying a little bit ago, he has been pretty darn good this year. 3.4 xFIP, 3.35 Sierra, 28% K rate, and that walk rate only 6%. The big issue with Robbie Ray is always that he's going to walk a ton of guys and he'll give up plenty of power. But so far this season, that 6% walk rate is looking pretty darn good compared to usual. Because there's been games before in the years past where Robbie Ray's like walking 6 to 8 guys a game. It feels like he's still giving up homers, about 2.5 homers per 9 with a 34% hard contact rate. But not overly concerned about the power here for Miami versus lefties this season. About a 28% K, which is near tops in the league, not quite Detroit's level, but it is approaching that, close to 30%. A little bit of pop, 164 ISO, but 301 on-base percentage, 94 WRC plus. I'm not really concerned about Robbie Ray here. I like the strikeout upside, and if he does give up a couple runs, it should come with near double-digit strikeouts, which is good enough for me at $8,500. And then if you're really looking to scrape the bottom of the barrel here at SP2, we have Brady Singer and German Marquez, both pretty cheap and plus matchups. Now, Brady Singer is facing Pittsburgh, which virtually has no power so far this season versus right-handed pitching. They don't strike out a ton, but 82 WRC plus with only a 116 ISO and a 7.9 walk rate. So I realize only 23% K rate, it's not super enticing, but Brady Singer has not been awful this season. He hasn't been great, but for $6,900, I think it is certainly viable. I know the ERA is close to 5, but the xFIP's about to run lower, and so is the Sierra. 23% K rate and only a 0.93 ISO given up and a lot of ground balls. So I think versus Pittsburgh, should be able to limit the power here, and he hasn't really given up any power whatsoever this season, so I think he should have a nice solid game here. Plus, the Royals are looking like one of the best stacks in the entire slate, so I think he's got a very good shot of picking up a win. He also has one of the lowest implied team totals against him. It might actually be the second lowest, only behind Chris Bassett as of right now. Then German Marquez, $6,700. He is purely a tournament option here because he is pitching at home in Coors Field, which is always a bit scary. Now, he has shown upside, especially recently. I think it was versus the Diamondbacks, right around 30 DraftKings points versus them pitching at home. I realize Texas is a team we've been picking on quite a bit this season, and when we move over to the bats, you're going to see a lot of Texas bats on there. So I do like Texas today, but at the same time, I think in tournaments you can play German Marquez if you want to get leverage on the ownership, because I imagine the Rangers are going to be pretty popular today considering their price didn't really get much of a bump whatsoever, if any, going to Coors Field. So they should be pretty popular, but the weather's not looking amazing in Coors today, like low 60s for the temperature, so I don't think the ball is going to be absolutely flying, although, again, it's still Coors Field. They're in the altitude, so it's going to be a major bump for bats, but 4.71 play team total here, which, again, isn't great, but a lot of that damage could be done to the bullpen if Marquez goes 6-7 innings. That could be a potential scenario there, but numbers this season aren't terrible. XFIP's about not quite a run lower than the ERA, but I'd say like 3/4 of a run lower. But 3.76 XFIP, 4.3 SIERA, which is closer to his ERA, 24% K rate, does walk quite a bit of guys. Does get a lot of ground balls though, and doesn't really give up much in the homer department, less than a homer per 9. A lot of hard contact, a little bit, but I still think it's obviously a good matchup versus Texas. I just hate using pitchers in Coors Field, but so far this season they are striking out at a 27% clip. So I think Marquez is viable here. I'm not super excited about it, but if you want to get leverage on the field, because Texas should be pretty popular today, I think Marquez is a pretty good way to do that, although it is a little bit scary. With that being said, I think that's it for the pitchers, though, so we can move right on to the bats. And start up top with the catcher position. We have Salvador Perez, $5,000 going up against Will Crow here. He's just not a really intimidating pitcher. And the Royals, while they're not my favorite stack today, I do think they're one of the better stacks. They have a team total at 4.6. Could see that rising throughout the day, but he's been great this year, kind of like last season. 276 batting average, 202 ISO, 115 WRC plus. Does strike out quite a bit and doesn't really walk whatsoever. But Salvador Perez versus Will Crow, who so far this season's got around close to a 6 ERA, close to a 5 xFIP, and close to a 5 SIERA, and double-digit walk rate as well. So I do think we can use pretty much all the Royals. Do have a lot of their lineup listed here down below. Mitch Garver at $4,600 facing a lefty in Camden Yards. The Twins kind of sucked yesterday. I know Jorge Polanco got a homer, Josh Donaldson did a little bit of damage, and Miguel Sano did nothing, and I forget who got the other run, but it was kind of a mediocre day for the Twins, probably even worse than mediocre, but really good matchup here versus lefty and Bruce Zimmerman. There's a lot of good bats in this lineup that hit lefties very, very well, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but they have a team total of 5, which I believe is currently the highest on the entire slate. And Garver this season, while he's not hitting for a high average, he does have an ISO close to 300, and Bruce Zimmerman is a guy that I have been picking on quite a bit this season. His numbers this season, about a 5 ERA, 4.3 xFIP, 4.4 SIERA. So the underlying numbers are a little bit better than his ERA, but still an 18% K rate and over a 300 batting average given up, and close to a 400 with over a 200 ISO. So we can definitely use pretty much all the Twins here, preferably the power righties, which there's quite a few in this lineup. Then Will Smith, $4,500. Just seems like a fair price point for one of the better hitting catchers in the entire league. Team total close to 5 here. John Gant's a pitcher that I have picked on before. I think we can tonight. Close to a 200 ISO this season and a 271 batting average. So I do like Will Smith quite a bit and most of the Dodgers. Then dropping down to first base, we have Freddie Freeman, $5,300 going up against Steven Strasburg, who doesn't look the same this year. I realize he's aging and he has been hindered with injuries. And so far this season, Steven Strasburg has not been overly impressive. Not terrible, but still 4.4 ERA, with the underlying numbers being even worse, with the xFIP and SIERA close to 5, 22% K rate with a 13% walk rate, also giving up near a 200 ISO. I'm not really looking to stack up the Braves too much, but Freddie Freeman, just as an individual bat on the Braves, does grade out pretty well. He also has a lot of history versus Steven Strasburg. And Freeman's one of the best righty hitters in the entire league. Then Carlos Santana, $3,900, just kind of picking on Will Crow here. He's decently cheap, hits in a good spot in the order, and knows how to get on base, so I don't hate Santana at that price point. Nate Lowe, $3,500, just a lefty here versus Marquez. If you're going to use anybody versus Marquez, I do prefer the lefties. Obviously, you can use righties as well, but the lefties do give a bit of a bump for me, and Nate Lowe's a guy with a decent amount of pop in his lineup, places in cores, hits in a good spot in the order, and pretty cheap. Dropping down to second base, we have Max Muncy, $5,300. Similar reasons to what I mentioned with Will Smith. And Muncy's been having a good year so far. 175 WRC plus with over a 430 on base percentage, 280 average, and a 424 WOA with an ISO just near 280. So I like Muncy if you have the price for him, or the money for him, I should say, and if you're just stacking the Dodgers up. Nick Solik, 4,500 bucks. I know he's a righty, and I do prefer the lefties here, but if you are just stacking up the Rangers, he makes sense. Jorge Polanco, 4,300 bucks. He went deep in the 9th inning yesterday, I believe. That's what it was. He was pretty low owned as well, but gets a nice righty on lefty matchup here versus Bruce Zimmerman. We actually have 3 Twins right in a row here, and they're all pretty much the same play for me. They're just in different positions, but Josh Donaldson, we know he kills lefties over the course of his career, so if you want to use Donaldson, don't mind that. The price isn't bad. I love righties versus Bruce Zimmerman. Miguel Sano, 3,600 bucks. He's probably either going to get a homer or he's going to strike out, and every time I play Sano, he strikes out 20 times, and then when I don't play him, he has a double dunk performance, so take that for what you will. But he's also eligible at first base. I mean, he's got plenty of power, over a 230 ISO this season, but he does have a 163 batting average. And that strikeout rate, I believe, is, close to 40%. 38.7% strikeout rate this season. So it's going to be homer or bust for Sano, but the price is nice, and I do like righties versus Zimmerman. Brock Holt's just a dirt cheap lefty here versus Marquez, although he doesn't really offer you too much because his ISO is below 100 and the batting average is at 234 this year, but he does have a decent on-base percentage. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, 4,200 bucks. He's got a decent amount of speed. I prefer the lefties here versus Marquez, but you can use pretty much all the Rangers here because their prices aren't overly expensive and they're in Coors Field. I really like Marquez today in tournaments, so I'd be kind of like in cash games. You can obviously just play the Rangers, although I'd be more inclined to play teams like the Twins today in cash games over the Rangers, but they're definitely an option because they're in Coors. I really like trying to get leverage here with Germán Marquez. Adalbert Mondesi, 3,500 bucks. I'll have to see if he's in the lineup. I know he got injured yesterday. I think he might be back in, but that's something to monitor throughout the day. But as long as he's good to go, 3,500 bucks, and it's a small sample size so far this year, only 26 plate appearances, but he's been playing some really good baseball, batting 360, 457 WOBA, 360 ISO, and WRC plus close to 200. So love Mondesi if he happens to be in the lineup today. Andrelton Simmons, 2,100 bucks, just an absolute dirt cheap option here versus Bruce Zimmerman. I know he's kind of there for the defense, not really his offense, but as long as he gets on base at 2,100 bucks, you'd be pretty happy with that. And then dropping down to the outfield, we have Cody Bellinger, Nelson Cruz, both guys in excellent matchups here, and I don't really like any of the super expensive outfielders. A lot of them are injured, or a lot of them just aren't in good matchups, so not even one guy here above $5,000, so I guess that's good for roster construction purposes if you are spending up for pitcher today. But Bellinger, again, he's been hurt for most of the season, only has 34 plate appearances, and it hasn't gone well for him, plus he's just returning from injury, so you got to be a little bit careful about that, but team total close to 5 here, like all the Dodgers, lefty on righty matchup here versus John Gant. Nelson Cruz, I mean, anytime Nelson Cruz is facing a lefty, we gotta love him here. And I mentioned I already love all the righties on the Twins. So at 4,700 bucks, I can see him being very popular today, and he's got to be one of, if not the top home run call in the entire slate. Adolis Garcia, 4,200 bucks. He's one of the league leaders in homers so far this season, absolutely crushing the baseball, batting close to 300 with over a 300 ISO. If you want to play him, that's fine. I do prefer the lefties here. I don't think he's an absolute lock play, but the price is nice. He's in Coors Field and batting cleanup, and what should be one of the better offenses to use on the slate, just in terms of what Vegas thinks is going to happen, and plus the, obviously the environment boost going to Coors Field. Joey Gallo, 4,100 bucks. Kind of like Sano, where he's strikeout or bust. He will walk, but I do prefer the lefties versus Marquez. So that's one thing he has going for him. But you always have to be a little bit careful playing Joey Gallo because he can definitely be a risky player where he gets you 0 points, or he can definitely have that double dunk performance. And if you are stacking the Rangers, you're probably hoping to get to Marquez early on so they can get him out of the game and get to that bullpen. Then Kyle Tucker, 3,700 bucks. He's been playing very well recently. Like the price point, should be hitting near the top of the order, especially with Michael Brantley being on the IL. 3,700 bucks versus Garrett Richards. About a 230 ISO this season. Batting average hasn't really been there, but I do like the power upside below $4,000. Billy Calhoun, 3,600 bucks. It's nothing I've already mentioned so far, just like all the Rangers bats in Coors Field. Again, not super excited about them because I think Marquez is definitely a very solid option today, more so in tournaments than anything, but we still can use the Rangers. Andrew Benintendi, 3,100 bucks. I like all the Royals today. He's got a nice batting average so far this season, batting close to 300. Power's not there, but we're not playing Benny for power. 3,100 bucks. We're just hoping he gets a couple hits, gets some runs, gets some walks, something like that. And I do like all the Royals today, so this is a nice cheap part of that stack that does hit in a good spot of the order. Then to round this video out, we have Kyle Garlick, $3,000. Should be leading off since we have a lefty on the mound for the Orioles, and if that's the case, he has shown some decent pop versus them so far this season. Now, there's always some pinch hit risk, but so far versus lefties this year, 49 plate appearances, he's batting over 300, 375 WOBA, 143 WRC plus, and a 900 OPS. He's striking out a lot, not walking whatsoever, so the ratios are pretty gross, but you do like the upside here versus a lefty for Kyle Garlick, and that price point is really nice as well. But with that being said, guys, I think that's going to be it for the video. So I hope it was helpful, and if it was, make sure you leave a like. And if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out, and I really do appreciate it. Follow me over on social media if you want. And if you want to support the channel over on Patreon, link is down below for that. And it is the beginning of the month, so it is the best time to do so. And I do cover other sports as well. So if you guys are interested, you know where to find it. But I think that's going to be it, guys. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video.